Hello, Painter Nation. Does your art look flat and you can't quite figure out what the problem is? Why does it look flat? I think I have the answer for you, and I can pretty much guarantee that 95 to 97% of the time when your art looks flat or is off, it's in the values. I bet you've heard this saying as an artist: values do all the heavy lifting and color gets all the credit. I'm going to show you how that works. This is a value scale. Starts off over here with the lightest and the darkest. There's usually 10 or 12 places in between here. And you can make one yourself out of paint or out of pencil. You start with one end and you add a little bit of black. Much more white than black. Then another daub of black, and then another and another and another, until over here there's no white, there's just black. And so you see all the values. So what you're looking at is you're trying to decide in your painting, is my value of this tree this color? If it's this color, then it has to be at least two values different in either direction to give it some life, to give it some realism. I've created a PDF on values, and totally free. Just go to the description and look for the very first thing in the description. It'll talk about values and how to get the PDF that I created. Now, let me just show you a few things here from some paintings that I did in a challenge with a group of friend painters of mine around the country. And we challenged ourselves 1 month to paint 2 paintings using one color, black and white. That was all. Okay, so this is all about a value study. And this is what I painted. I used ultramarine blue, Mars black, and titanium white, and that is all the color that I used. Now you can see that the wing has great form. You can tell that it's different than the body, that the head gets darker as it goes back here, gives it this round look. This here starts out darker and gets lighter and gives it a different shape. Here it's gray. This is a log that it's sitting on. This is the inside of the log. This is not really quite deep enough. It could have been a little darker to make this part pop out. If you don't have dark and light together, you have a flat painting. It doesn't matter how well it's executed in the color. If you don't have dark and light, your painting will be flat. Let's look at another example. This is the Utherian College in Indiana. Now, when I say I only use blue and black and white on this, that is the truth. However, I did tone this board. This is just a masonite board. I did tone this with burnt sienna and white. So there is a little bit of warmth coming through back there, but it's not actually in the painting. It does make this part here look very much warmer because of what's underneath there. Now, I want you to look at this side of the building. Okay, it's darker. At this side of the cupola up here, it's darker, lighter, lighter. And so you can see that without these different values, this would all be one shape and you wouldn't be able to tell what it was. This part of the building would just not look right if it was the same color as this. It has to do, in this particular case, and in most cases, where the light's coming from. But again, it's a matter of what did I add to the blue to lighten it up or to darken it. So the value, let's just look at this again. Here's the value strip. So I am looking at this building, and to me, this blue is in this value. So this over here needs to be in this value. And the same thing up here. Okay, so this, for me, this is kind of a goobered up one right there. This is about this value, and this side over here is at least this value. So you can see how the value shifts. And that's what gives the building its shape. Same thing on the bird. That's what gives the bird the shape. The log gets the shape from the values, not the color. It doesn't matter that I only used one color in black and white. It doesn't matter that this log is blue, black, and white. It does not matter. It's just a matter of where are the values in the bird and the log and the building. Now let's just look at back here, this painting back here. This yellow pops off this black. Now if you look at the sunflowers, this layer of petals back here is darker. The next layer of petals is 2 shades lighter. The next layer is 2 shades lighter. It doesn't really matter if they're perfectly shaped. It matters what the value is. If this petal here was the same color as this petal back here, your sunflower would have no shape. It would be very flat. And I have seen people sit there and try to figure out, how can I make this? This isn't right. It's just not working. It's because there are no value shifts between those. If you don't have value shifts in your objects, and every object needs 3 values for it to have some sort of shape. Over here you've got all this dark, and then this comes in very light and makes that leaf look like it is flipped up. This is one of my favorite paintings. I want you to look here at this. How does this work? When you're looking at this cup, it's not a perfectly shaped cup. This is a practice thing here. This is too tall. It should be a little smaller. But what we see here is the light coming from this side. It's hitting the handle. This is the underside of the handle in here. And so it's not getting as much light. This is the top. This is a part that's not getting much light. The light is bouncing there. It's bouncing here. And it's bouncing inside the cup. So up in here, it's lighter. Down on this side, it's much darker. And without those value shifts, it would be flat. It would look very amateurish. It doesn't matter what color I painted the cup. It just matters, did I get the values right? And that's what I'm trying to do on this particular painting. Not necessarily trying to get the best shaped cup. I am trying to get the best value. And I think that was achieved. Here is another painting. I want you to look at those geraniums. See how dark they are on this side? And there are several values of dark. And then it's, as the light comes across, okay, the light's coming this way, it starts to get lighter. Are the petals perfect? No, they're not. But your eye sees it. Your eye knows immediately that's geraniums. And this is lavender. It could be wisteria. But you see the light coming from here, and this side is lighter. On the white flowers here, this side is lighter. As you see the leaves, you have various shades of leaves. If they were all the same color, all the same value, they would look very flat. And then finally, I want to show you this one here. Okay, so with the flowers, when you look at the daisies, you see that, and this is very subtle, but it has to happen or your flowers will look flat. These back petals, look how much darker they are than this. Now your eye is not saying, well, that's really dark back there. I don't really understand why it's like that. No, your eye is saying, oh, that's a nice round daisy. That's what your eye is seeing. And so then the next layer is lighter, and the next layer is even lighter. You keep getting lighter as you come forward. There are several rules of perspective that beginners often forget. Everybody forgets. The further things are away from the viewer, they have less detail, they're cooler, and then as they get forward in the painting, they get warmer and brighter and more detail. Okay, so here we have this guy back here. He's just got a couple of values. But when you look at the roses, you can see that this side over here is much lighter than this side here. And if you didn't have all these values, that rose would look very flat. Is it a perfect rose? No. Is it a realistic rose? Not exactly. But your brain sees it as a rounded, full flower. So, values, they are the most important part of learning how to paint. It's not about mixing color. As I showed you with the bird and the building, it doesn't matter what color this is. It matters that the values work. If I were a beginner, I would make one of these, and how I would do it is I would take a piece of watercolor paper and I would take this first strip as white. The next strip I would add a little bit of black to that white, and I'd make another big strip, and then a little more and a little more, all till I got all the way over here and it's just black. There's no white in that. So you might have a piece of paper that's 8.5 by 11, a watercolor 8 by 10, something like that. Then you're going to cut it in strips across the paper, and then you'll have like 10 of these. And so if you get it covered in paint, it doesn't matter. You can pitch it and start over again with the next one. I have a stack of them over there underneath the basket. That's one real good way to make your own value strip. You could also make one with pencils and just start with a white strip and then add, like on a pencil, H10 is the softest pencil. And usually it's an 8, but you could get a 10. But anyway, the higher the number, the harder it gets. Or if it's on the soft side, the softer it gets. So if you want the lightest color in pencil, you're going to go H8. H is for hard. Now here's the funny part. B is for the softest part. And so the higher the number on the B, the softer it gets and the blacker the color will be. So you want to start off, you can do the very same thing on a piece of paper and just start like this, very, very light. After you leave one part white, the next one you're just very, very light, the next one's just a little darker. Pretty soon you're going to be changing pencils with the values. In here you might be at an H4, and here you might be at like a BH, something in the middle. Then you're starting here with the softer ones, B3, B4, B5, B6, B7, B8 is the dark. They do go up higher, but usually in a normal pencil set for beginners, it goes from 8 to 8. You can make your own value strips out of pencil as well. So you will have those, and I would use those, when you're working on your painting. You're going to, this is this value in here. This is this value. So the next layer has to be this value. It has to be lighter. The next layer has to be in here, even lighter. You will know that if the values are right, the painting will work. It won't be off. If your painting is off, I can just about guarantee you 97, 98, 99% of the time, it's right in here. It's in the values. Make some value strips and learn how to use them. Look at your art and see, does it look flat someplace? If it does, are the values off? Because I can almost guarantee you they are. And it's a beginner's thing. It takes a while for your brain, your eye, your hand to all start working together and to recognize that, oh yeah, that's why I'm struggling with this particular thing that I'm trying to paint, because I'm not using the correct values. This video has been brought to you by paintingwithacrylics101.com. That is my teaching website, and it is created for beginners. There is a free blog there with tons and tons of free information. All you have to do is go to paintingwithacrylics101.com, and the home page will come up. Across the top are some tabs. Go to the blog tab, and boom, all sorts of things will open up. And all kinds of classes created specifically for beginners. I also have several individual classes, and I have the Painting with Acrylics Academy. And it is a comprehensive course for beginners, starting with things like color, values, perspective, materials, and then ends up with 2 paint-along classes. So check out Painting with Acrylics 101.com if you're a beginner. I would love it if you have somebody that you know would love to learn to paint. Share this with them because they will appreciate the information. I try to break it down for beginners, always remembering how I struggled as a beginner learning how to paint. That's the reason that I do this. One thing you can do to see if your painting is measuring up to the values that you want to put in there is stand back. A painting is meant to be viewed 6 feet. Stand back and squint, and you're going to lose all of the little details, and you're going to see the big shapes. And do the values work? If the values don't work this way, they're not going to work this way either. So stand back and squint. I've shown you how color doesn't matter, and keep repeating that in your mind. Yes, the color is important, but values is what gives your painting the realism and the shape that you're looking for. Color without values is nothing. It's flat. It's amateurish. So it's important to understand how to create values and how to use value to improve your art.